day everyone, I'm here to present one of the theories of the first language acquisition, the functional approach.
Functional approach.
More recently, with an increase in constructivist approaches to the study of language, there has been a shift in patterns of research. The shift has not been so much away from the generative or cognitive side of the continuum, but perhaps better described as a move even more deeply into the essence of language. There are two emphases have emerged. First one is, researchers began to see that language was one manifestation of the cognitive and affective ability to deal with the world, with others, and with self. It is understandable that without language, we can't deal with everything in our daily living, and I can say that language is one of our basic needs to live. Moreover, the generative rules that were proposed under the nativistic framework were abstract, formal, explicit, and quite logical. Yet, they dealt specifically with the forms of language and not with the deeper functional levels of meaning constructed from social interaction. Here are some forms: morphemes, words, sentences, and the rules that govern them. While their functions, the meaningful, interactive purposes within a social or pragmatic context that we accomplish with the forms. The first social constructivist synthesis of the functional perspective was on cognition and language development. Dan Slovin, among others, demonstrated that in all languages, semantic learning depends on cognitive development and that sequences of development are determined more by semantic complexity than by structural complexity. There are two major pace setters of the language development involved with the pulse of functions and forms. First one, functional level. Development is paced by the growth of conceptual and communicative capacities, operating in conjunction with innate schemas of cognition. The second one, formal level. Development is paced by the growth of perceptual and information processing capacities, operating in conjunction with innate schemas of grammar. In simple terms, what children know will determine what they learn about the code for both speaking and understanding messages. Child language researchers began to tackle the formulation of the rules of the functions of language and the relationships of the forms of language to those functions. In recent years, it has become quite clear that language functioning extends well beyond cognitive thought and memory structure. The second social constructivist emphasis of the functional perspective was on social interaction and language development. Berko-Gleason looked at the interaction between the child's language acquisition and the learning of how social systems operate in human behavior. Other investigations of child language centered on the function of language in discourse. Since language is used for interactive communication, it is only fitting that one study the communicative functions of language. What do children know and learn about talking with others? About connected pieces of discourse, relations between sentences, the interaction between hearer and speaker, conversational cues. Within such perspective, the very heart of language, its communicative and pragmatic function, is being tackled in all its variability. This kind of research renewed interest in the performance level of language. Overt responses such as hesitations, pauses, backtracking, and other conversational cues that were carefully observed by the structuralists hastily weeded out as performance variables by generative linguists have now returned to the forefront.
Stages of child language acquisition. Language development begins from the very first day after birth. By the age of 5, the child knows most of the system of language, and it continues even after the age of 5. Research indicates babies listen to their mother's voice during the last few months of pregnancy. Every child acquires a language as a native language with equal ease. How does a child learn her languages while in such a short time? And what is the course of language learning? Developmental psycholinguistics has attempted to answer these questions over the past 30 years, and also provided us with considerable insight into the how and why of the first language acquisition case, 1992. Languages are acquired in the predictable stages as the behavior develops. They do different in their onset and rate of development, but the chronology seems to remain constant. CAS 1992. Acquiring language is learning a game. One must learn the rules of the game. Children also learn to improve and enhance their behavior for a good member of a society.
Main stages of child language acquisition.
Many stages of child language acquisition. The first one is pre-linguistic period. This is the developmental aspects related to speech, would include the development of gestures, making adequate eye contact, sound repartee between infant and caregiver, cooing, bubbling, and crying. For example of such pre-speech sounds would be dada, mama, and baba. The second stage of child language acquisition is the holoplastic period, or the one word. By this point in time, children can produce a small number of isolated single words and many sounds. This is now more language specific rather than universal babbling, for example, naming persons or objects. The third stage of child language acquisition is the telegraphic period. This stage, children begin stringing more than 2 words together, perhaps 3 or 4 or 5 at a time. However, the style of speaking children use in this stage resembles the way of writing that used to be in telegrams. There are 5 semantic rules in this stage. First one is the agent plus action. The second one is agent plus object. Third is action plus object. Fourth is action plus location, and the last one is object plus location. The last stage of child language acquisition is the complex period. At this time, a child regularly produces phrases longer than 6 words in length, and they began to express concepts of past and future time.
If you're still here, I would like to thank you for staying. I hope you learn it a lot like we do and understand the topic we've shared. Our main goal is to make this topic understandable enough to all of us, and help us to apply what we have learned to our daily living. Thank you, and God bless us all.